Hi, welcome to our channel where we share the most intriguing stories. She came in with a bob haircut, aviators indoors, and the scent of trouble. I just wanted to fix engines and drink cold beer, but Karen Hart, queen of HOA tyranny, had other plans. I didn't start the suburban war, but I sure as hell finished it, with cones, cameras, and a burrito in hand. I've never been the type to go looking for trouble. After 2 tours overseas and a decade of fixing everything from Humvees to helicopters, all I wanted was some peace, a cold beer at the end of the day, and enough busted lawnmowers and old generators to keep my little repair shop afloat. I found that peace in a quiet Arizona suburb where I set up my modest garage on a plot just outside the boundaries of Silver Palms Estates, one of those tidy HOA-run neighborhoods where everyone's grass is cut to the exact same length, and you get passive-aggressive letters if your mailbox leans 5 degrees left. I liked my position just outside the HOA, close enough to town for supplies, far enough to be left alone. Most of my customers came from the neighborhood, regular folks who respected the work I did, paid on time, and brought me tamales at Christmas. I had no complaints, no drama, just the occasional kid riding his bike a little too close to the equipment yard and the sound of cicadas in the evenings. That peace lasted exactly 14 months and 3 days. Then Karen Hart walked into my shop like she owned the place. Blonde bob, aviator sunglasses indoors, and the kind of perfume that announced itself 5 minutes before she entered the room. I should have known she'd be trouble the moment she addressed my employee, not with a greeting, not even a nod, but with a bark. "You, I need help. Now. No, please. No, good morning." Just straight to entitlement. Becca, my assistant, tried to be professional, but the way Karen treated her, you'd think Becca had spilled acid on her blouse instead of just asking if she wanted coffee. After 3 minutes of Karen's snide remarks and condescending tone, I stepped in, smiled politely, and said, "I'm sorry, but we won't be able to help you today." Her face twisted like I'd just handed her a parking ticket. "Excuse me," she hissed. "Do you know who I am?" I shrugged. "Ma'am, I don't think that matters." She stormed out, muttering something about reporting me to the HOA board. I almost laughed. I didn't live in the HOA. I wasn't under their rules. I was a free man, legally and spiritually, but what I didn't realize at the time was that Karen Hart wasn't the type to let anything go quietly, and I had just unknowingly lit the fuse on a powder keg of suburban chaos. A few days passed, and I almost forgot about the whole Karen episode. I figured she'd go scream into a mirror or write an angry Yelp review and move on with her day. But apparently, I underestimated just how deeply I'd wounded her HOA-sized ego. Because on a sunny Wednesday morning, I pulled into the City Park parking lot for my usual lunch run and found myself back in her warpath. I just grabbed my burrito from a taco truck and was walking back to my truck when I heard the unmistakable screech of Karen's voice slicing through the air like a cheese grater on tile. "There, that's his vehicle. That truck is a violation." I turned around slowly, not sure if I was hallucinating, but there she was, standing like a budget parking enforcer, snapping photos of my license plate and yelling into her phone. She waved over one of the park security guards like she was directing traffic on a runway. "This man is abusing public property. That's HOA parking space. He doesn't live here. His truck is ruining the community image. Let's be clear, this was a public parking lot, city-owned, no signs, no restrictions, just a flat stretch of asphalt next to a kid's playground and a couple of benches." But Karen didn't see the world as it was. She saw it as a grid she controlled, and I was an unregistered dot on her map. I approached her calmly, burrito still in hand. "Karen," I said, "it's a public lot. You're causing a scene." "I'm enforcing standards," she snapped back. "We can't just let people like you park wherever they want." "People like me?" She didn't answer. Instead, she turned to a young father sitting on a nearby bench with his toddler and yelled, You're a witness. Tell him he can't park here." The dad blinked. "Lady, you're yelling in front of my kid. Chill out." That's when it escalated. Karen spun around and, I kid you not, swung her purse at him. It missed by a foot, but the gesture was enough. The guy stood up, shielding his kid, and said, "That's it. I'm calling the cops." And just like that, people started pulling out their phones. A teenage girl muttered, "Finally," and hit record. I watched the crowd form around her, some amused, some concerned. Karen, now red-faced and flailing, pointed at me like I'd orchestrated the entire ambush. "Him! He's provoking me! He started this!" "Me?" I was still holding my burrito. I backed off and leaned against my truck as the sound of distant sirens grew closer. Park security didn't intervene. They just stood there like they were watching an episode of Suburban Nightmares Live. Karen paced in circles, ranting about public decency, neighborhood order, and civil responsibility, as if she were trying to summon the ghost of Ronald Reagan. And all I could think was, this woman really thinks she's untouchable. This wasn't about parking anymore. Karen had made it her mission to make my life hell. And, judging by the way she was spiraling in front of a growing audience and an incoming police car, it was clear she didn't plan on stopping until someone put her in her place. I should have known Karen wouldn't let the parking lot incident slide. Not after the cops showed up, took one look at the situation, and calmly told her to sit down or risk being detained for public disturbance. I even overheard one of the officers quietly chuckle when she shrieked, "I pay your salary," before storming off, muttering something about internal affairs and community sabotage. That was on a Thursday. By Saturday morning, I arrived at my shop to find the driveway blocked with a row of traffic cones, an orange construction barrier, and, this part was almost impressive, a laminated sign zip-tied to my fence that read, "Closed by HOA order code. Violation pending." Let me repeat, my shop is not part of the HOA. It never has been. It sits on independent land with its own parcel number, zoning permissions, and business licenses. The HOA couldn't order me to change the color of my socks, let alone shut me down. But Karen didn't care about facts. She cared about power, or at least the illusion of it. I pulled up in my truck, stepped out, and just stood there for a second trying to process the sight. Orange cones, fake closure notice. And to top it all off, someone had tossed a bag of trash at the front door, like a cherry on top of a passive-aggressive sundae. Becca pulled in behind me and got out, gaping. "Whoa, what the hell happened?" "My guess," I said, already walking toward the security cameras mounted over the door. "Our favorite HOA president decided to wage war." We pulled the footage, and there it was. Karen herself, wearing a wide-brimmed hat like she was on safari, accompanied by two guys in neon vests that I'm 90% sure were just her lawn care crew. She supervised them as they placed the cones and set up the barrier. At one point, she posed for a picture in front of the sign like it was a ribbon-cutting ceremony. I couldn't believe it. She really thought she could shut down a private business through sheer force of delusion. "Well," Becca said, watching the footage, "this just got interesting." We printed the photos, pulled the time-stamped video clips, and called the non-emergency police line to file a report for trespassing, harassment, and attempted business interference. The responding officer, a younger guy named Alvarez, shook his head as we showed him everything. "She brought cones?" he asked, baffled. "She brought cones," I confirmed. He scribbled something in his notebook. "All right. I'll file this and forward it to our Community Compliance Division. You've got clear footage, so it won't be hard to make the case." But it didn't stop there. That same evening, someone tagged me in a Facebook post from the local community group. Karen had written a scathing manifesto about unauthorized businesses disrupting the harmony of Silver Palms and dangerous veterans running unregulated shops. She posted blurry photos of my shop, zoomed in like I was cooking meth in the back, and called me a threat to suburban integrity. The comment section, it exploded. Half the neighborhood sided with her, spewing HOA jargon like they were quoting the Constitution. The other half, pure comedy gold. One guy replied, "Karen, this man fixed my lawnmower for free after my husband passed. Chill." Another said, "Imagine being so bored you fake an HOA code violation on someone else's property." Then someone dropped the security footage in the comments. Full video. Karen in HD, setting up cones like she was installing a red carpet. And that was the moment everything started to turn. People started laughing, sharing. Memes sprouted like weeds. Someone edited her into a Game of Thrones scene with the caption, "Queen of the Cones, first of her name." By Sunday, her post was deleted. By Monday, I had 5 new customers, some from inside Silver Palms, who came in just to shake my hand and say, thanks for standing up to her. Karen had tried to strike back, but instead, she'd gone full supervillain in front of the entire neighborhood, and it was backfiring faster than a rusted chainsaw. And me? I was just getting started. I could have ignored the mess. Could have let the memes ride the wave while Karen spiraled into HOA obscurity. But I guess some people are incapable of quitting when they're already 6 feet deep in their own grave. The following Saturday was the town's Community Cleanup Day, a chill event with local vendors, food trucks, and volunteers picking up trash at the public park. I was planning to take the morning off, help out, maybe finally patch things up with silver palms. You know, be the bigger man. But the moment I pulled into the park's lot, I felt the atmosphere snap, like static before a lightning strike. There she was, Karen Hart, standing on a makeshift platform in front of a folding table decked out with HOA flyers, laminated bylaws, and a ridiculous foam board that read, "Taking Back Our Streets, HOA Safety and Standards Initiative." She had a PA system. She had matching shirts for her volunteers. She even had a damn podium, a plastic one, but still. And then she saw me. Like a heat-seeking missile, her eyes locked onto me as I stepped out of my truck. My first thought, she's gonna try something. My second, I really should have brought popcorn. She grabbed the mic like she was about to announce a hostile takeover of local government. "Attention, everyone. We have a serious issue in our community, an outsider violating the sanctity of our neighborhood." People turned. A few startled volunteers looked at each other. One mom covered her kid's ears. "This man," she pointed at me, hand shaking like she was holding Excalibur, "has been harassing our board, disrupting public spaces, and running an illegal operation on the edge of our community." The crowd murmured. I crossed my arms and leaned casually against my truck. And now he's trying to intimidate us with cameras, lawyers, and his little online circus. Well, I say, no more. That's when I noticed the two city council reps and the local cop, Officer Rick Archer no less, approaching the scene. Rick and I exchanged a brief nod. He was already wincing. Poor guy probably sensed what was coming. He stepped up to Karen's platform, calm as ever. "Ma'am, this is a city-run event. You can't use a personal sound system here. You need to lower your voice." Karen lowered the mic, but not her voice. "I have rights. I pay taxes. I am the president of the HOA. That means I outrank you." Rick blinked. "Ma'am, no one here is ranked. You work for me," she barked. "I am your employer." Rick took one step forward. "Karen, this is your last warning. You're disturbing the peace. Again." Step down from the platform. I could see it coming, the building rage, the jittery stance. Karen's mouth twitched, and for a second I thought she was just going to scream. But then she spat. A full projectile tooey right into Rick's face. The crowd gasped so hard, I swear it created a vacuum. Rick didn't flinch, not even a blink, just calmly reached for his cuffs as Karen screamed, "No, I'm a woman. I have influence. I know the mayor's dog." But Rick was already reciting her rights. "You are under arrest for assault on a peace officer. Turn around, hands behind your back." I've seen combat. I've seen chaos. But this was a different kind of battle. One fought with PTA newsletters, Facebook groups, and unhinged declarations of suburban sovereignty. And Karen had just lost the war on live display. As Rick guided her down the steps, people scrambled to record. Phones were everywhere. TikToks already forming in real time. One guy in cargo shorts whispered to his wife, "That's the HOA lady, right?" She replied, "Not anymore." Karen shrieked the whole way to the squad car. "You can't do this. I'm going to sue everyone. I demand a lawyer and a mint tea." Rick helped her duck into the cruiser with professional grace, then turned to me. "You okay, Jason?" I nodded, suppressing a laugh. "Was that the HOA's official exit ceremony?" He snorted. "Could be. Might want to grab yourself a front row seat at the courthouse next week." "Oh, I'll be there," I said. "Wouldn't miss it for the world." As the cruiser pulled away, with Karen still shrieking like a busted smoke detector, the crowd slowly went back to their hot dogs and recycling bins, as if the HOA queen hadn't just been dethroned in a Shakespearean implosion. I stood there a while, letting the moment sink in. This wasn't just a victory, it was a spectacle. I've never dressed for court before, but that morning I put on my cleanest jeans, a button-up, and the boots I wore in Kandahar. Figured they'd seen enough action to qualify for a public spectacle. I wasn't just a witness that day. I was a front-row spectator to the meltdown of a suburban monarch, and I wasn't about to miss a second. The courthouse lobby buzzed like a hornet's nest. Reporters with notepads and handheld mics. HOA members in matching navy polos whispering furiously. And then, the main attraction. Karen Hart, flanked by a trio of grim-looking lawyers and an assistant clutching a briefcase like it was nuclear launch codes. She strutted through the hallway like the queen of silver palms herself, except now she was wearing court-mandated flats instead of power heels. Inside the courtroom, I took my seat just behind the prosecution. Officer Rick Archer sat nearby, calm as always, flipping through his notes like this was just another parking ticket. Karen's side looked more like a corporate hostage situation. Her lawyers were pale, sweating, flipping pages at lightning speed. She, on the other hand, had that same smug tilt of the chin she wore the day she tried to shut down my business with traffic cones. The judge entered, a tall woman with silver hair and the kind of eyes that could see through drywall. Case number 481, State of Arizona versus Karen Hart, the clerk read. And just like that, the hammer dropped. The prosecution laid it out smooth and merciless. Assault on an officer, public misconduct, false claims of jurisdiction, and a cherry on top, attempted obstruction of lawful business operation. That last one came straight from the footage we submitted, where Karen personally staged the HOA closure of my shop. I was called to testify on day 2. I stood up, walked to the stand, and looked out across a sea of familiar faces, neighbors, small business owners, a few guys from the local barbershop, and in the corner, 3 teenagers I didn't know holding up phones, probably live streaming the whole thing. Because of course they were. They asked me what happened. I told them about the workshop incident, the fake violations, the cones, the memes, the community post accusing me of being a dangerous operator, about the kids watching her swing her purse at a man in a public park, and then finally about the spit, the moment she crossed every line. "Why didn't you retaliate?" the prosecutor asked. I shrugged. Because I didn't have to. Karen was doing all the work for me. Laughter broke out across the room. Even the judge cracked a smile before banging the gavel once and muttering, "Let's stay focused." Then came Rick Archer's turn. Calm, measured. When he described the incident, he didn't dramatize it. He let the body cam footage speak for itself. Karen's voice shrill and imperious. Her accusations, her spit flying like a mortar shot. His response swift and professional. Karen's lawyer tried their best to play the mental health card, claiming undue community stress, fatigue from overcommitment, and even post-pandemic HOA anxiety. The judge didn't bite. Especially not after the city zoning expert took the stand and confirmed, on official record, that my property had never, ever fallen under HOA jurisdiction. Then came the real twist. Multiple HOA board members requested to testify. Apparently, Karen's little empire was built on a foundation of threats and passive-aggressive newsletters. One member choked up as she explained how Karen had once threatened to fine her for wind chimes that violated the acoustic purity clause. Another claimed Karen would edit meeting notes to erase dissent. It was like watching a dictatorship unravel in real time. The last witness was a woman named Linda who had lived in Silver Palms since it was founded. She stood up slowly, leaned on her cane, and said into the mic, "Karen Hart didn't protect our community. She poisoned it." You could have heard a pin drop. After that, the defense didn't even bother a closing statement. They just quietly submitted a guilty plea to avoid more damage in civil court. The judge nodded, satisfied, and read the verdict. Guilty on all counts, fined, restricted from holding any HOA or municipal leadership position, community service mandated, psychological evaluation required. Karen didn't look up. She didn't shout or cry or stomp. She just sat there, deflated. All the air gone from her image. A woman who once barked orders across playgrounds, now reduced to a silent silhouette in county beige. As I walked out of the courtroom, someone patted my back. "Hero of the suburbs," they said. I laughed. "Nah," I replied, "just a mechanic with cameras." But deep down, it felt damn good. After the gavel fell, you'd think life would return to normal. And for the most part, it did. My shop was busier than ever. Folks from all over town started showing up, not just with broken weed whackers and lawnmowers, but with stories. Stories about the time Karen fined them for having the wrong shade of beige on their garage doors, or when she tried to ban inflatable Halloween decorations. Turns out, I wasn't the only one she'd tried to bulldoze, just the first who pushed back hard enough to knock her over. But while Silver Palms tried to quietly bury the chaos and elect a new, actually sane HOA board, the internet had other plans. The video of Karen's spit attack went viral in less than 24 hours. Someone slowed it down, added dramatic opera music, and titled it, "The Fall of the Suburban Queen." It made it to Reddit, then TikTok, then morning talk shows. One clip even aired during a comedy news segment with the host saying, "If you ever think you've made a bad decision, just remember, you didn't spit on a cop while live streamed in 1080p. Within a week, Karen became a meme. People started tagging random power-tripping behavior online as pulling a Karen heart. HOA meetings across the country began their sessions with a ceremonial, "Let's all try not to go full Karen today." I even got fan mail. A guy from Oregon mailed me a custom coffee mug with "Not Today Karen" printed on the side. I use it every morning. Meanwhile, Silver Palms tried its best to clean up the mess. The new HOA board started with a total policy audit. They removed over 20 arbitrary bylaws, including the flagpole height limit and the infamous silent hours for bird feeders. For the first time, residents actually showed up to meetings. They laughed, they shared baked goods, and no one got fined for wind chimes. As for Karen, she disappeared from public life almost entirely. Rumor has it she moved out of state to start fresh. But let's just say, with that level of infamy, fresh starts don't come easy. Her face, immortalized mid-spit, still circulates the internet like a cautionary ghost of suburbia. And every so often, someone tags my shop online with "the guy who broke the HOA matrix." Do I mind? Not at all, because sometimes justice isn't just about the law, it's about the laughter that follows. A month after the trial, Silver Palms held its first ever community block party. Not a HOA mandated one, but a real one. You know, with people actually smiling, kids running around without fear of citation, and no one measuring shrub height with a ruler. The new board invited everyone, even non-residents, and someone left a handwritten note in my mailbox that read, "You survived Karen, you've earned burgers. Come hungry." So I showed up. There were food trucks, bounce houses, folding tables full of homemade casseroles, and even a small stage set up for live music. But the centerpiece, hanging proudly above it all, was a massive white banner in bold navy letters. "In this neighborhood, we don't spit. We BBQ." People cheered when I walked in. Someone handed me a paper crown labeled Cone Slayer. Another passed me a t-shirt that read "Honorary Non-HOA Hero." I didn't even fight it. I just laughed, grabbed a plate of ribs, and leaned into the madness. But the real highlight came after sunset. Someone rolled out a portable projector and set up a screen on the grass. I figured maybe they'd show a movie for the kids. Nope. They played the compilation. It started with the original footage, Karen's infamous meltdown at the park. Then came the courtroom sketch memes. Then the TikTok remixes. One had her face photoshopped onto a medieval queen being dethroned. Another had a dramatic voiceover. In a world ruled by bylaws, one man dared to fix his lawnmower. By the time they showed the slow-motion replay of the spit, with added opera vocals, the entire lawn was in stitches. People were wiping tears from their eyes. A little girl turned to her dad and asked, "Who's the man she spit at?" The dad pointed at me and said, "That's Mr. Jason. He's why we get to have fun now." I won't lie, that hit me. I never asked to be the poster boy for post-HOA redemption. I just wanted to run my shop and live in peace. But somehow, standing up to Karen had given people their community back. Before I left, I stood on the makeshift stage and raised a soda can. To Karen, I said, wherever she is, may her clipboard rest in peace. The crowd howled, and as I walked home, full of ribs and redemption, a kid ran past me with a balloon tied to his wrist. The balloon had a print of Karen's silhouette mid-scream and the words, "Hey, oh no." And that was it. The war was over, the fences were gone, the memes remained, and for the first time in a long time, it felt like the suburbs could finally breathe.